Welcome to another edition of Drive for Show, DFS for Dough, here on RotoGrinders. You're seeing us here and watching this. That means you're interested in some golf talk, so we will do that for you heading up to this week's event, the John Deere Classic. Of course, one of my favorites every year. It's only about a half-hour drive for me, so I always get a little more excited for this event than many of the others, but we'll get through the DFS analysis, maybe do a snake draft as usual at the end of the show. Of course, I am Justin Van Zuiden, STL Cardinals 84. I've got Notorious, Derek Farnsworth alongside after a week off. Noto, how's the last couple weeks been for you?
Yeah, I've been good. Doing a little travel last week, but doing good. How was the show last week?
Yeah, it was good. I was joking with, last week that since you were gone, you might remember the previous week we had a big conversation about whether or not to play Scheffler. And you said that one of us would be happy at the end of the week. And then Scheffler wins the tournament. And then you took the next week off. So I just said, told Ryan you didn't want to face the music there. So I've still remembered, though.
Yeah, I was hoping you'd forget, but I'll eat it. I had, who did he beat? I had Tom Kim outright, so that was double painful 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, and it was a tough. Tom Kim played really well, made some clutch shots there to force the playoff, but Scheffler doing Scheffler things still ended up winning the tournament. So kudos to him for keeping things rolling. But if you're in the golf outright betting market, these couple of non-Scheffler weeks are a little more exciting for you, maybe, especially this week where it's pretty wide open. But last week, Rocket Mortgage Classic in Detroit, Cam Davis gets the win there by one shot over a group of four guys. Akshay Bhatia has been really close the last couple weeks, finished in that group one shot back along with Minwoo Lee, Davis Thompson, and Aaron Rai. Those guys are all playing pretty good golf right now. It was a fun tournament there, exciting finish. I didn't really have a whole lot of sweats last week, but it was, that's not the most exciting course. It just, kind of a blah week I didn't play a whole lot. So any other takeaways that you've got from last week or the week before or anything before we forge ahead?
It was kind of a cool finish. Second year in a row, Ricky Fowler won the playoff there last year, but man, it seemed like nobody wanted to win last week. Minwoo Lee ended up bogeying 18, had a chance to get in the playoff. Akshay 3-putted 18, had a chance to get in the playoff. Cam Young went 2 over his last 3, which was a little surprising. I think he broke his driver on 14. Ended up snapping his shaft, so I'd hit a 3-wood. But Cam Davis, second win at the same tournament. So seems like it's happening more often recently with kind of mediocre golfers.
Yeah, and he was only 2 under on Sunday. The course conditions were a little bit weird on Sunday. All the par 5s were playing into the wind, so the course wasn't nearly as scoreable on Sunday as it was the other days. I'm pulling that up here right now. So on Thursday, the scoring average was 1.12 under par. Friday was 1.94. Saturday was 2.40. And then Sunday was just 0.08 under par. So basically playing even par on Sunday, which is as difficult as we've ever seen that course play with the way the wind was picked up and was going, making the par 5s go into the wind. So I thought that was a little interesting note. Didn't see nearly as much for low rounds on Sunday. I think 4 under might have been the low round of the day on Sunday. So it was interesting to see that course play a little more challenging for the final day. And kudos to Cam Davis for picking up the win for a second time. So we've got kind of 2 events here with last week's Rocket Mortgage and then this week's John Deere Classic, where you've got weaker fields. Most guys are just preparing for the swing overseas. You got the Scottish Open next week, and then the Open Championship the week after that. So you'll see strong fields, obviously, for those. And we got kind of another week here where it's a kind of an underwhelming field. And I laugh because, this event, obviously, it's close to me, and I usually always go for a day or two. So I end up playing far too much DFS this week than most weeks. And I noticed in our content this week that you've had some good success with the John Deere in the past too. So we're both going to be the crazies playing a little extra for, in this random 4th of July tournament.
Yeah, I mean, back in the day, you just played Zach Johnson, Steve Stricker every year, and then hit JT Postman here a couple years ago. So been a good tournament for me, and we're more excited than most, I think, this week.
I've had a couple of my bigger DFS wins at this tournament, and worth noting, obviously, knocked my earpiece out. Technical delay. Worth noting that they're expecting like 2 inches of rain overnight tonight in our area here. So this course TPC Deer Run is already pretty easy. And again, projecting about 2 inches of rain tonight. So it's probably going to get even softer after that rain moves through. I mean, that's a significant amount for the course to take on. It's supposed to be nice the rest of the week. And then temperature's only around like 80 degrees. So used to playing these summer events in the 95, 100-degree heat in the Midwest, but it's going to be 80 degrees. It's going to be nice. So picked up myself some tickets for Friday and Saturday. So I'm going to go check out some golf for a couple days this week. I haven't been for 3 years, so figured I better go back.
Nice. Decent field, at least. Well, Patrick Cantlay ended up withdrawn and Cam Davis, but we got Spieth and Jason Day, some other guys.
Yeah, it's maybe a slightly stronger than what we saw last week. Obviously, Cantlay has committed to this tournament twice, and he's withdrawn before the start both times. I'm not really sure what's up with that. It seems a little strange, but I'm sure the tournament organizers are thrilled that he committed like 3 weeks ago. They sent out a bunch of promotions that Cantlay is going to be in the field, and then he pulls out on Monday. So, and that was after pricing was released. So. Just note, if you are playing on sites, on DraftKings, there were 3 guys in the player pool that withdrew on Monday, Cantlay being one of them, Cam Davis being another, and Taylor Montgomery being the third. So just make sure if you built your rosters early, that you don't have those guys in your player pool. But why don't you talk about the course as usual to get things rolling here?
Yeah, so TPC Deer Run's par 71, just under 7,300 yards, so really short by PGA Tour standards. Difficulty, really easy, 34th or easiest or easier each of the last 5 years. Winning scores usually around 21, 22 under par. Bent grass greens, the fairways are easy to hit, pretty wide, so you can be a bomber or a plotter. Doesn't really matter. We've seen both kind of win here in the past. But you got to be good with your wedges. Over 45% of approach shots are going to be hit from less than 150 yards. So you got to be good with your wedges. Everyone's going to be hitting these greens. Last year, 72% of the field hit the greens in regulation. So that often turns into, an iron and putting contest. Whoever can hit it closer and whoever can make more putts. I did find it interesting that bogey avoidance was more of a predictor for success here than birdie or better percentage. So something I'll be looking at. I don't know if that's just because everyone's making birdies, so whoever just limits their mistakes kind of finds their way to the top. But yeah, kind of looking total driving, approach, short game putting, bogey avoidance, birdie or better as well. And then if you're using the rabbit filter on Betsperts, I kind of like looking at the easy courses, very easy courses, that kind of stuff. What about you?
Yeah, that surprises me with the bogey avoidance too. I think that's a fair point. Everybody's making birdies, so when you're making bogeys, that's when you're losing the most strokes. I think that's a pretty important point that I hadn't even really considered it until you mentioned it. So I think that's an interesting angle to look at. And of course, the wedge play, and there's a lot of short to medium length par 4s. The par 5 10th hole has water along the green, and most guys don't go for that in 2, so that becomes a wedge with your third shot in there. And so, no surprise that guys are seeing a lot of approaches between 100 and 150 yards. Would also jive with Zach Johnson having that success that he had here. Certainly when he was in his prime, that was kind of his game. So, pretty much in agreement. I think we're going to have a lot more agreement this week than we did a couple weeks ago. Just based on the stuff that I've seen both of us writing up so far. So, and that's then no surprise that we're kind of in agreement on the metrics to look at this week as well. So, not super difficult to build lineup salary wise. Obviously, Cantlay was released as the most expensive, and he was $11K. So now that he's out of it, we don't have anybody above 10.5. And last I looked, like depending on what site you're using, the best odds to win are like plus 1,400 or plus 1,500. So I mean, probably about as wide open as a tournament we've seen in a while, I think.
Yeah, for sure. I can't remember the last time. The most expensive guy was 22-1 in Jordan Spieth. So what are you doing with your favorite player?
My favorite guy. I mean, look, we just haven't seen anything from him. Spieth doesn't have a top 10 or a top 20. Yeah, he's got one top 10. One top 10 since February. And then outside of that, T63, T41, miscut, T37, T43, T29. I mean, he did win here way back when he was a teenager yet. I think he was 19, but hasn't played here since. And he's the most expensive guy. He's going to get ownership because people are going to feel the need to pay up for somebody. I mean, I have to pull it up right now, but I think when I looked earlier, we had his projected ownership at like 26%. I think it's cool that he's back in this tournament, but I think the only reason he's here is because it's a pretty good indication that he's trying to find something that he doesn't obviously have at the moment. So probably no surprise, but I think I'm out.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. The biggest issue has been his approach play. I don't know if it's his injury or what, but he says that he's kind of scared to make contact with the ground, and that's really hurting his iron game. And that's kind of been his strongest part of his game throughout his career. So, I mean, he's lost on approach in 6 of 8. You mentioned one top 25 in 13 starts. That's just not good for somebody this expensive. So I'm right there with you. If I'm building an MME set, I'll probably just get 10% just because I do think he could win, but definitely be underweight on the field.
Yeah, I totally agree there. I think the other guys are certainly more viable. You've got Straka as the defending champ and a guy who's been playing really well. It's going to seem weird to see all these next guys, at the prices they're at right now. There's a few of them that are playing well. They're obviously going to seem overpriced in this field, and there's some that maybe have underperformed a little bit. That would mainly be Sung Jae, but he has turned it on with the 3 top 10s his last 4 starts, so he's kind of picked it up again. But you got Straka, Im, and Aaron Rye rounding out that 10K range. If you're not on Spieth, like we aren't, are you starting with one of those other 3 in the 10Ks?
I mean, I think I'm starting the 9Ks for my single entry stuff. But yeah, I mean, Straka's been really good. Top 10 machine this year, former winner last year. He's got that approach play that you're kind of looking for. He's been a good putter as well. Sung Jae, you mentioned, finally looks like he's back to being Sung Jae. And then Aaron Rye seems like a great fit. I just don't know if he can make enough putts to win, but he's been a little bit better putting over the last, if you look at the last 12 months, 6 months, 3 months, he's gotten a little bit better when it comes to stroke gain putting. So maybe he's found something, but yeah, I mean, I prefer them all over Spieth. I just like the 9Ks more.
Yeah, I think Rye and Im, I think, are both fine. Rye was in that group that was 1 shot back last week. And he's been pretty steady, 3 straight top 20s, 3 top 10s on the year. So even though he doesn't have a lot of course history here, I think he's certainly kind of dialed in right now. So I don't think you have to play anybody above 10K. If I do, I'm probably ranking them in reverse order of their salary: Rye, Im, Straka, and Spieth. And I'll probably have at least those first couple in my multi-entry GPP pool. All right, you mentioned starting in the 9s. We've got Maverick McNeely, Davis Thompson, a couple guys that are playing really good golf right now. Starting that group off, Denny McCarthy, Jason Day, Keith Mitchell, JT Poston, and Stevens in the 9Ks this week. If you're starting down there, imagine maybe you're trying to get 2 of these guys.
Yeah, I think I'm actually going to go 3 9K guys in my main lineup this week. And it wouldn't surprise me if McNeely and Thompson end up being higher owned than the 10Ks just because they project nearly as well. I mean, they project better for me. And I've looked at some other projections. They project pretty closely to the 10Ks as well. And you get the ownership, or you get the price discount as well. But yeah, McNeely, I mean, he hasn't missed a cut since January. The irons have been better. He's gained on approach in 4 of his last 6. He's got good course history here, T8, T18. Davis Thompson, back-to-back top 10s. He's gaining strokes all over the place. He's the second best in the field on easy courses, T31 here last year. And then dipping down to 9,100, I like JT Poston a lot. went wire to wire here in 2022. Finished T6 here last year, and he's just like the perfect, Zach Johnson, Steve Stricker type. That he's just shorter, but he's going to hit those fairways. Very good with the wedges, can light it up on the greens, and clearly it's worked for him at this event in the past. So those are my favorite three. But I mean, Denny's a pretty good play. Keith Mitchell is interesting because he continues to strike the ball well. He just can't putt, but I don't know. He's at least interesting if nobody's going to play him.
Yeah. So my angle, and this is kind of dumb, but since I'm going to go on Friday, I always like to try to find a group that I can follow around and put all three of them in my DFS pool, which is somewhat hard to do with this tournament because the field strength is so weak that finding three guys that are in the same group that you want to walk around with that you feel comfortable playing is a little bit of a challenge. But managed to find one group that all three of the players were in my preliminary pool, so I didn't even have to do any shenanigans. So Mitchell's in that group, so I'll mention all three of them as we get through the show. But Mitchell, of course, I'm a fan of his in general. Doesn't really worry me too much if you're spraying the ball a little bit off the tee here. We know that he can be a little wild sometimes, but the off the tee and approach game have both been fantastic. As we all know, it's just going to come down to the putter. I'm okay with taking some shots on some wild putting guys this week. Can balance it out with Poston if you want a guy that's maybe a little bit more reliable on the greens. But I'm going with my boy Mitchell on this event here. I like McNeely and Thompson as well. I think they're certainly the two safest guys in here, and like the idea of potentially starting some lineups in here. So even if you go say McNeely, Mitchell, and Poston, you still got 7,300 on average for your last three guys, which is certainly doable. The 8Ks aren't mega strong either, so you can go with the 9s and 7s, which is probably what Noto is getting at with his kind of optimal type of build there. So, but McNeely, Thompson, Mitchell, Poston, those are probably the four guys that stand out to me. I've seen some love for Stevens. I think he's okay in tournaments as well. And then anything else in the 9Ks for you?
I mean, if Spieth and Day finish 1-2, I'm going to be in real trouble.
Now we're going against all the veterans. We're going with all the, again, that's why some of clearly these guys are in the field when they usually aren't, because they're trying to find something this week, but we'll see. But I am agreeing. I am in trouble as well if that happens. All right, let's move down into the 8Ks. Nick Dunlap just turned pro a while back. He got his first top 10 last week, a T10 finish. I think he's in one of the feature groups this week, so cool to see him playing well. And I thought maybe he would fly under the radar a little bit, but got priced up to 8,900. So that will likely keep ownership down on him. I think that's at least an interesting angle for Dunlap. Glover, Clanton, another guy that got in. He was T10 last week, who's priced higher than I would have expected. In the upper part of the 8K range. Then the lower part of the 8Ks, we got Mark Hubbard, Eric Cole, Seamus Power, Svensson, Bo Hostler, guys that we're kind of used to seeing, maybe slightly elevated price tags this week, but not extremely out of line. So what are your thoughts on some of these 8Ks?
Yeah, so I think with these really young guys, I'm just going to assume that they have a wide range of outcomes. And if they're going to be high owned, I'll be lower owned on them. And if they're going to be low owned, I don't mind being overweight because there's a lot of talent that's coming up. It was nice seeing all those amateurs get into the field last week. And I mean, Shipley turned pro. We'll talk about him in a minute, but he played well. Clan played well. So yeah, we just don't really know their games. So the fact that he's coming off of a T10 is good, but 8,600, if he's going to be owned, I'll probably be underweight, but I'll wait and see what that number is later in the week. For safety, I like Lucas Glover. I know he hasn't been in the best of form the last three events, but they've been two signature events and the U.S. Open. And he's won here before, a couple other top 10s in the last 4 years. And then Kevin Yu, I mean, he's a bomber, and he's gained 19 strokes on approach in his last 5 starts. He was T6 here last year. I think he makes a lot of sense. Think about adding him to my outright card as well. He's kind of like Keith Mitchell in that he can't putt, but 8,800 is a pretty good price point there. Then the lower eights are just all guys that are safe, but I worry about their upside, like Svensson, Hubbard. They keep making cuts, but like no top 20s in their game logs. So
Yeah,
it's hard.
now there is some merit because this course is so easy. I think that taking guys that are just going to give you a steady made cut, I think taking some of them is fine, even in GPPs, like because you're going to need a 6 of 6 if you want to finish anywhere near the top. It's not like the U.S. Open where guys are going to be scoring, 1 or 2 points if they have a bad round. Bad round here is like 4 birdies and 3 bogeys or something like that. So I think I like Hubbard. I mean, he hasn't missed a cut all year. I think you don't want to fill your lineup with all those guys, but I think taking maybe one guy in here if you need it is totally fine. Maybe Svensson as well. I'm not going to throw all those guys in a lineup, but Hubbard in particular, I do like. I like the U call. I think Dunlap is okay in GPPs as well. Right now, we've got him at like 7%. Clanton, I'm probably off. But there's not a whole lot separating a lot of those guys. I think they're fine, but I don't mind taking one or two, kind of quote unquote safe guys, even in GPPs this week.
Yeah, and a couple guys that just randomly popped up last week. Eric Cole, he's been terrible for months, ended up finishing in the top 10. And then Bo Hostler, I think he gained like 6 strokes ball striking after losing strokes ball striking in 6 straight or something. So a couple guys that you can keep an eye on, maybe add to your MME pool as well.
All right, let's go ahead and go down into the 7K range. Quite a few names in here that Patrick Rogers plays this event every year. His results have been a little bit hit or miss. Adam Schenk has 3 straight top 10 or 3 top 10s the last 4 trips to this event. Shipley, who Noto just mentioned, is in the 7Ks. My man Doug Gim, if you're on Team No Putt, is at 7,600. Got Ben Griffin in here as well. So these guys don't seem horribly overpriced just because there's so many guys bunched together this week compared to the 8s, the lower 8s. There's really not that big of a dip. So I presume in your lineups where you're trying to get 3 9Ks, you're probably scooping in here for additional options.
Yeah, I think I like the low 7s a little bit more, but I like Ben Griffin at 7,900. His strength are irons and putting. I think that's going to play nice here. He's never played this event, but we've seen a lot of guys show up and play well here in the past. Shank's an interesting one because he's been so bad, but he's got the course history. I think Lee Hodges is a good bounce back candidate. He was pretty popular last week. He's another one of those guys that's very good with the irons and putter. I'll be overweight on Shipley. It just seems like, he's played 3 events. It was a low am at the amateur, low am at the U.S. Open, and then played well last week in his first pro start. So I think he's certainly interesting. And then Andrew Novak, good ball striker, and he's gained around the green in 10 of 13. He's gained putting in 9 of 12. So he's kind of learning something with the short game as well. Made the cut here each of his last 2 years. So those are probably my favorites. Do you have anybody else?
Yeah, I like Shipley as well. I think Gim. I'm a sucker for playing some Doug Gim, so I'm on the course history narrative with Schenk. Schenk used to be that consistent guy, that Hubbard type that would just make a bunch of cuts. Now he's been a lot more inconsistent, especially lately. But those 3 top 10s here, that's enough in a weak field, I think, to make me interested in him. That's probably it for the upper part of the 7Ks. I think the lower part of the 7Ks is where you can maybe try to chase some ceiling. I'm still somewhat of a believer in the talent for Daniel Berger. If he can't get it done in this field, then we've got some issues. Michael Kim is a past winner here. Davis Riley is a winner this year. Davis Riley won a tournament this year, and he's 100-1 at the John Deere Classic. And so is Goddard. I know he won an alt field event, but Goddard and Riley are both tour winners this year that are 100-1 in one of the worst fields you'll see all season. So again, you can't expect safety from these guys, but chasing upside, Luke List, if he can make some putts, Chandler Phillips, I think is someone interesting. So I don't think you're going to find a whole lot of these lower 7K guys that are 100% safe, but 1 or 2 of these guys are probably going to pop for a top 10.
Yeah, I think so. Was Michael Kim's win here like the biggest surprise win in the last 10 years.
I mean, he had missed like 20 cuts in a row or 18 or something like that, and he won by like 7 shots. It was nuts.
Yeah, and then since then he's missed the cut here each of the last 3 times.
Yeah, I'm not playing him. I'll pass on. I'll play all those other guys I mentioned before him.
Yeah, I like some of them too. I like Justin Lower, 7,200. He's been pretty good with his irons and putter. I like Grayson Sig, a couple top 20s here. Johnny Vegas has been real good with the ball striking. So he's kind of a guy I have my eye on. He's got some good course history here too. Moving down a little bit, Ben Silverman is one of the best at bogey avoidance. He's top 8 in the field. So if you do want to look at that number or that stat, I think he could be interesting. And then, I don't know. I mean, you could take a shot on a lot of these guys, but those are probably my favorites.
Team John Deere Classic, Zach Johnson.
How has he been the last couple of years here?
I think he missed the cut last year, if I remember right. I did not look because I'm not playing him. He's not relevant too much anymore. But
oh no, he made the cut.
He must not have done much.
He's T30. Let's see how many cuts in a row he's made here. Let me pull it up.
I feel like there was one miscut in there, but all the years run together, so I might be.
He hasn't missed a cut here since 07.
That's pretty good. Well, I misremembered.
He's probably like a T50 this week.
Hey, he's good for that T50, maybe T45. Look, you can make a case for it. I'm not going to argue with you if you want, but there's just so many guys in here that I'll chase the others. Nick Hardy is an Illinois guy who has many quotes about loving the course. So obviously doesn't have the experience of a Zach Johnson, but if I'm going to chase a local narrative, give me Nick Hardy at the same price.
I like that. Playing a little bit better. Made his last 3 cuts here. I don't mind that.
All right. Anything else in the sevens?
I did write up Chan Kim in the survey. He's been so good ball striking, and he just keeps missing cuts because he's been so bad with his putter. But eventually, he's going to get a little bit better with the putter. So I'll play him at 7K at like 2%.
All right. Heading down into the sixes. I had a couple guys that I highlighted here. The first is Patton Kizzire, has only made 5 of 13 cuts this year, but that includes 4 of the last 5, and all 4 of those have been top 25. So looks like he's maybe rediscovered some form. He's got some decent history here as well. So he's 6,900. Most people will just see that 5 of 13 cuts and move along. So I think Patton Kizzire is interesting. And the other one, another guy who tends to play a little bit better in the Midwest is Kevin Streelman. Not a ton of top finishes from him lately, but has made 4 cuts in a row. Has some decent results here in the past. You got to go back a little bit further. But Kevin Streelman at 6,600, that price is pretty cheap compared to some of the other golfers that are down there. I'll roll him at 6.6K, and then Kizzire at 6.9K. Who are you liking in the punt range this week?
Yeah, only 3 guys that I could really pick out that I would want to play. One was Kizzire, like you mentioned. Others were Troy Merritt, who always plays well in Detroit. I think he's got like 5 top 20s there now. Another one last week, and he was T17 here last year. Tends to be a streaky guy. 6,800 for him. And then Vince Whaley has been playing really well on the Korn Ferry Tour, just making a lot of cuts. So I don't mind playing him at 6,800 as well.
Yeah, so my play everybody from a single group, I ended up on 2 options here. One was Streelman, who I just mentioned, with Mark Hubbard and Keith Mitchell. Those are the 3 that made my pool originally. Not that I'm super excited for Streelman, but Streelman, Mitchell, Hubbard was option 1, and Berger, Dunlap, Goddard was option 2. So that one seems a little bit more risky. Not sure I want to go all in on Goddard. So yeah, I think I'm going to be walking with the Keith Mitchell group on Friday at least. So as long as nobody tanks on Thursday to where I don't want to, they're 5 over, I don't want to walk the whole course with you, but hopefully they hold out enough on Thursday anyway. All right, let's see. I think that takes us through. You got anybody else?
No. How are the crowds at the JDC?
I would imagine that they'll get more this year because they got Spieth back and Day. I mean, they've at least had some more to promote. Plus, it's a holiday weekend. Like a lot of people have Thursday and Friday off, and the weather's supposed to be beautiful. So, I mean, it's really hard to walk with golfers when it's 100 degrees and there's no shade, and it's only supposed to be like 80. So, I think it'll be a little more crowded than usual. I mean, not like they're 20 deep or anything, but I think there'll be a good turnout there, at least hopefully anyway. All right. If you are not wanting to stick around, appreciate you watching us as always. We'll do a snake draft here on DraftKings if we can get enough people to join to end the show. Hit that thumbs up button on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel. We appreciate all your help very much. And we'll catch you back here next week as we start preparing for the Open Championship with the Genesis Scottish Open next week. So if you're not sticking around, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next week. If you are sticking around, let's try to find a snake draft here on DraftKings. We usually do a $5 six-man. There's one that's empty right now, which scares me a little bit because we got to find 4 others. And I know not everyone is as excited about this tournament as I am. But if you're out there and interested, we'll pop in a snake draft here, and we got 2 of 6 now. So we'll give it a few minutes. If it doesn't fill, we'll pass. But hopefully we can get 4 others to join us this week. I'll post on Twitter as well.
All right,
and
4.
Per Noto's comment, we like it when we have to fill them all ourselves anyway, because then we don't get stuck with any auto drafters.
Yeah, it's annoying that they don't turn it on earlier.
All right, posting the tweet now. You mentioned you'd done some traveling, a vacation, or what? Where you been off to?
I was in Nashville, just visiting the office and stuff.
A workcation.
Yeah, it's good seeing everybody.
I've been down for a while. We went maybe 5 or 6 years ago.
All right,
one more poor soul to take our money. We didn't do one last week because I was too nervous about not getting enough people for the crummy tournament, but can't pass up doing one for the John Deere. So,
all right, we're in. Devin got in for us.
Thank you, Devin. All right, I will share my screen here in just a moment. All Team RG except for D Rich is a regular. All regulars. Nice to see y'all.
And one really old logo.
I'm gonna see how long I can keep that before I get canned. I gotta change that. I've said that a million times.
And you're 6th again. That's a good week for it.
Yeah, I don't mind it this week. I wonder if I can save this image directly. Otherwise, I might need Steve or Devin to send me a thumbnail. Does this work? Let's see if it works. We're doing live IT troubleshooting here on the air to see if I can get my logo to work. Maybe I need to refresh. Well, I know I did it. Maybe it just takes a log out and log back in, but I'm not going to. All right, there's proof. I'm blasting my phone number, and I don't love that I did that, but don't spam me. All right, we're underway here.
McNeely, first off the board.
Interesting.
Would have been my choice too.
That just kind of shows you how wide open it is. There we go. All right. Well, I'll go with Rye. And I'll go with Mitchell.
Ooh, we're flying.
Yep. We got all the regulars. Everybody knows the rules.
How far did Speed go on the fourth? Ryan Mitchell's pretty solid.
Oh, I like that. Those are the first two guys I put in my GPP article this week, so we're being consistent.
Yeah, I got my 2 article guys too. So.
Dunlap. This will get a little challenging by the time we get to the final round, I presume. How's Hostler been doing? Couple miscuts.
Good numbers last week.
Struggled a little bit in the final round, but it's better than he has been playing. Oh, Tug Rules took Hubbard, so I can't keep up my streak. Yeah, I'll go for Shipley in this format and Mr. Weakfield, Seamus Power.
All right, go Griffin.
Definitely staying on brand. All guys that you've mentioned here.
Yeah, usually I do the snake as a
hedge.
$5 hedge on my lineups.
I beat you by 2 points a couple weeks ago for the last spot, so I got an extra $5.
Were the protesters? That was 2 weeks ago, right? That was crazy.
Yeah, that was wild. Probably the last you'd expect something like that to happen. Golf course.
Yeah.
Then they moved the pin location in for the playoff because of the,
That's why Tom Kim lost.
That's why. Yeah, totally.
Joe Dahman, ADP's up there.
All right, I'll go with Rogers. Now I got to try to hunt somebody down here a little bit. Oh, we'll go with Riley. I mentioned he's 100 to 1. I don't mind. You get a bench guy. I don't mind somebody wild here in the final rounds. Schenk was the more logical choice. Zach Johnson, somebody's a believer there in Team John Deere Classic.
Our boy Toasty, he was paired with one of the amateurs last week, and I guess he got on him because he thought his ball moved or something, and it just got in the guy's head, and it was at Jackson Coyvin, and he ended up missing the cut.
I would be petrified to play with that guy.
Or his caddy.
Because I'm terrible, I guess, but
so angry. Last round already. All right, I'll take Damon.
Gonna set records. As I sit here wondering why my logo doesn't change. I'll figure it. I bet a log out and a refresh. Y'all are gonna see me with a fresh new face next week on the snake draft. I promise. All right, I'm gonna go with lower for the last pick. All right, all set for the week. Zoom through that. Thompson, Glover, you, Griffin, Hodges, Vegas, and Dahman for Noto. Aaron Rye, Keith Mitchell, Shipley, Seamus Power, Patrick Rogers, Davis Riley, and Justin Lower for me. So with that, that will put an end to the show for this week. Again, hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We'll catch you back here next Tuesday, same time, same place. Thanks to Noto for joining me. I'm Justin. Thanks to Steve for producing behind the scenes as well. And we will catch you later, everybody.